This is the Knock&Talk show, an Alio first responder veteran podcast, sharing some comic relief from the street.
Hey folks, welcome to the 31st episode of the Knock&Talk show. I, of course, am your host, Patrick Faulkner, and our guest for this episode is Eric Reynolds, a retired police officer out of Boynton Beach, Florida. And we are going to be discussing all kinds of things in this episode, some funny, some serious. We're going to cover things from shorts on patrol to headline news, Florida man, ... And we're going to cover some things like nutrition and healthy diet and exercise and the importance of that in the law enforcement community. And we have an incredible story, a life-changing story that Eric is going to tell us about that led him to a number of national news interviews. Interested? Of course you are. Stay tuned. You'll learn more right after this.
Oswego's in pursuit, military in Riverside, coming into the city. No vehicle description on a Washington-plated car. It's incident 21.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 31st episode of the Knock&Talk show. I, of course, am your host, Patrick Faulkner, and today we have Eric Reynolds with us, former police officer from the Florida area, and he's got a couple things going on that I think you will find very interesting, and ways to help him out with those. Eric, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for taking time out of your day and hooking up to your brother-in-law's Wi-Fi and coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Patrick. Thank you.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about who you are and a little bit about your background and some the two things, Keto 5-0 and Cops and Campers, and then we'll dive more into those two things at the end of the show. But just give us a quick rundown.
All right. I'm a son of a homicide detective from Miami-Dade County back in the 70s, 80s. I grew up as a suburban kid. Went off to Florida State, got my degree, started catching shoplifters, retail theft type stuff, and eventually got hired by Boynton Beach Police Department and did almost 20 years there. And then
Wow.
I retired early. We sold our house, bought a big truck and a toy hauler, and we homeschool. And now we travel the country just homeschooling and seeing what's out there. And, in the meantime, I got my license in sports nutrition and started a little side business and trying to help first responders live long and prosperous and spend some of that pension money without having to spend it at the hospitals,
Yeah. Years of that gum belt, vest, boots, sitting in uncomfortable seats for hours upon hours. It does wonders to our back and our hips, and so it seems like the right thing to get into nutrition, a personal trainer, to help the rest of us that weren't smart enough to go through the school, but were willing to pay you money to teach us how to be better.
Man, I was 250 pounds in 2018. I was diagnosed with heart disease. They were looking at wanting to put stents in me because of artery blockage and stuff. And my wife got me to be a little more open-minded, and I was a big fan of modern medicine anyways. I went through the opiate crisis and where we arrested doctors for pill mills and all kinds of stuff. So I always was like, I'm not a big believer in the modern medicine right now because it's just big business. And that was just my opinion. And, once I lost all that weight and I got healthier and my mind got better, and especially dealing with a shooting I was in, I had a lot of PTSD issues and stuff like that. But changing my diet, changing my career, and then getting out there and talking to people, especially at different campsites as we travel, it's so therapeutic, and it's really like it's therapy for me. And I know other people talk to me in this therapy, and that's what helped start the Cops and Campers retreat program. That's kind of how it led into that.
That's awesome. I back in August of 2022, so last year, I was 210 pounds, And this is actually the first time that I am openly admitting to this, to the Knock and Talk world. But I was diagnosed with cumulative PTSD from 15 years of law enforcement, and being a 5-time small business failure. So I just put pounds. I went in the Air Force in 1995 at 115 pounds.
Wow.
I'm a small guy. I'm 5'7" with my boots on first thing in the morning. So 210 pounds, that's a lot. And by shifting my mindset and really focusing on fitness and a better lifestyle, I'm down to 165 and hitting PRs almost every week in the gym. So I can get behind that message, brother. I really can.
Yeah, I mean, I always lifted. I always ran around, tried to stay active. Got to keep a guy off your gun, right? Got to survive 3 minutes at least. All this stuff that you were taught in the academy, and I thought I was in pretty good shape, but I didn't realize how really big I was. And fortunately, I lost the 75 pounds pretty much after I retired. 50 pounds on duty, 25 after I went carnivore, pretty much animal-based diet. And man, I wish I could have rocked a uniform at 180. I mean, I got abs now. I never had abs my whole life, man. Never.
Wow.
I was the guy too embarrassed to take my shirt off at the beach.
Yep.
I always wondered, like, man, I see a guy in good shape, but I'd wonder how that is, right? Because I knew I could, something wasn't right, and then understanding what the nutrition guidelines had been when I was growing up, and then putting in the high fructose corn syrup into our diets and how toxic that is to me. And it kind of made me a food addict my whole life for sugar and carbohydrates. I never realized it. And then once I cut that out and started understanding more stuff about how it affects me personally, because we're all a little bit different, and man, everything took off. My PTSD symptoms backed off. I'm still dancing with it. It's, of course, it's never going away. So, but I can manage it now a lot easier. I still have my short temper. I still got young boys, and I still have that football coach mentality where I want to hit him in the head with a whistle or something. You can't do that now. You got to try to use your words, as my wife says.
Yeah. Yes. Use your words.
Verbal judo, right?
That's woosha, woosha.
So yeah, it's been awesome. And now that we got some really good things going on in our life with this full-time RV type of life. I made my first arrest as a civilian now. I mean, it's not really an arrest, but
right.
Let's talk about funny stories. I don't have a lot of them as a cop, but because everything's tied to a horrible situation, like every funny story. Like, I don't know if that's okay to share, but
well, you're amongst family here.
I was in a campground right when we first started in Tennessee, and I saw these two guys. We call it 56, and they were right next to each other talking.
Okay.
We do it in the morning. Someone's doing reports. Someone's taking a nap, whatever. As long as the other guy don't take a nap with you.
That's right. The power nap. Yep.
So I saw him sitting there, and then I saw him cruise through the campground. I was like, oh, what are they doing? Maybe they're patrolling, And then they parked out there again, and they got out on foot and started walking around. So I was like, man, something's up, right? And then I'm making bacon because I'm a big carnivore, right? Eggs and bacon every morning. Of course, the cops are coming over and I'm flipping bacon. I'm like, guys, want some bacon? And they're like, no. I go, have you seen that guy across the trailer over there? I go, oh, the one with the pit bull inside the little cage and the flag out, American flag flying around. I thought it was a military guy. They go, yeah, but he's got warrants for some drugs and stuff like that. So I'm like, oh, all right. They're like, well, if you see him, let us know. So they left. And a few minutes later, after he left, the guy came out. He's smoking a cigarette. And I'm like, oh, shit. So I got on the phone. Like, hey, man, your guy's out here right now. I felt like the little tipster, that we used to respond to. It's so weird to be on that side of it, right?
Yes.
And then I start thinking, man, this drug offense, does this guy have an assault rifle over there? He's going to start spraying the campground because, aluminum trailers.
Yeah.
It's going right through everything, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, man. So I get the kids, back up. The cops are coming, The cops are coming. So weird to say that. And then they pull up. He was outside doing something. They just walked up right on him and talked to him. They handcuffed him, and there was nothing bad happened. They actually uncuffed him so he could walk the dog, and then they recuffed him. I was like, oh my God, what are you guys doing?
What?
It's some good old boy system or something, like they just trusted it. Or maybe they knew him.
Maybe they knew him. Maybe they knew him.
That's the only thing I was like, man,
Yeah.
you just had this guy in cuffs. Why is he out of cuffs?
Yeah. Okay, Junior. All right, go ahead, walk him. Go ahead. Come.
So I was like, you guys owe me breakfast. You owe me an omelet with bacon or something. So, but yeah, I mean, those are some of the different things we see. I didn't know you were going to do that. We do some different things with the different campgrounds. You never know who you're going to meet. Usually it's
Right.
old, retired, crusty cops, right? The world is, horrible. And I don't know about this campground. I go, but you're here. They just always complaining. I feel like I'm still on shift with these old guys,
The ones that are just eternally disgruntled, right? We called them road officers, retired on duty.
Yeah. It's either a rookie or an old guy that never got anything in his career, and that's that's the front line for the public.
Yep.
Like, wow, that's not that.
That's perfect.
I know, right?
So I spent my career in Metro Atlanta, hot on that pavement, just hot. I cannot imagine being. No, I was born in Pensacola, so I am a Florida native. But I can't imagine wearing polyester, Kevlar, the leather gear, the boots in 97 degrees, 97% humidity at 8 p.m. How is that?
It's just like, you wear that vest anytime and it's humid or hot. It's just brutal. I mean, mold growing on my vest.
Yeah, it
trying
just
to
sucks.
scrub it, and then we had that stupid thing you hook to your AC and stick,
Yes.
that snake thing put down.
Yes.
I'm sitting there like, oh my goodness. And then no wonder we get the calls. We're short-tempered. The people we're dealing with are short-tempered because everyone's hot.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We don't want to deal with this right now. So it was a struggle. You pick your moments, when you get out there in the sun. And I had a shaved head back then, so I was always like trying to sunblock it up and just, I found in the good times of the year, the winter times when the weather was nice, people are a lot more, pleasant to be around. It was funny how the hot summers came, the violence went up, kids are out of school, people hanging around with, not doing anything really that great or productive. So, yeah, it wasn't that bad though. I was in a bike unit. I got to wear shorts.
Shorts. I was going to ask you about the Lieutenant Dangles shorts.
Yes, we had them. And people made fun of us, but you know what? It was cool.
I'd wear them. I tell you what, I'd wear them.
And then our chief let us go to the TAC Fest over top, and we were able to unvelcro it and hang it. Like you get a rest, you could throw it over your chair in booking, type out your report, and at least your body's cooling off, a little bit,
Yeah.
But yeah, for the most part, you just had to stay hydrated. Good at nights. Nights was a little cooler.
Right. Yeah, but then you had to deal with the state bird, the mosquito.
Yeah, we also had the no-see-ums along the coast.
Oh my God! Yes, the no-see-ums.
You'd be sitting there on calls trying like, all right, now you guys get back in the house, and they're like, what's wrong with this guy?
Is he methed out? What's he doing? Is he going after the meth mites?
Scratching? You're like, Yeah, that was always pretty horrible. And whatever lotion anybody had, we were throwing it all over our bodies and that, And then you'd eat a sandwich later, and all of a sudden you're like, I'm tasting all the mosquito repellent. But that's a good old day.
Yeah, the DEET, right? There's nothing wrong with DEET. A little DEET with your pickle juice.
Little fingerprint dust powder in there,
Yeah. So, tell me about the news always reporting Florida man ... What is it about Florida men and their crazy antics?
It's the old cops show. Where they show up in a trailer park and a guy comes out with a wife beater on, right? Drunk, right? You already know how this is going to go.
Yeah, yeah.
And, it's very diverse population here. We got a lot of people, probably a lot like California and Texas and probably New York, but for some reason they love to come down here to Florida. Obviously, we're very open and a conservative state for the most part. And you got the beaches. You do have some of the country in northern Florida and, north of like Ocala and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a beautiful state to be in. So, but we do attract some wackadoos, man. And we would and most of them aren't usually Florida natives. They're always from like somewhere else. I'm from Tennessee or I'm from Kentucky or I'm from Iowa. And it's, fortunately, we have a lot of drug rehab facilities down here too.
Yeah.
So we do get a lot of that coming down here. Yeah, let's send them down to Cocaine Cowboy Central, where all the cocaine used to be. Let's send them down to Florida.
Man, that's a headline I hadn't seen or thought about in a long time. The Cocaine Cowboys.
Yeah, my mom's in that first documentary in 2006.
Really?
Her and my stepdad. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, because they were part of that old investigation, the Centac unit. I was going after. Actually, back then they were going after Griselda, the Black Widow.
Right.
That was the whole thing with them. So yeah, it was a crazy time. Just opening fire in the middle of intersections and stuff.
Yeah.
Like one of those gangster movies.
Like it's Juarez. Juarez,
Yeah.
Mexico, just straight up in the daytime.
They didn't care. It's crazy.
Mm.
So
Yeah. So, at any point in time in your career there in Boynton Beach, did you have an opportunity to live life like Crockett or Tubbs?
okay, the bicycle unit was a good gig.
Okay.
We have beaches. We got lots of schools where you're riding around saying hello to everybody, and then you have the shopping centers. So I almost felt like 21 Jump Street type of thing.
Okay.
Riding around on a bicycle, and you talk to everybody. You're officer friendly, and sometimes you'd roll up on stuff. A lot of sex crimes going on in cars and alleyways.
No.
In the parks. There was some we caught on to some app that was called Cruising for Sex, right? And it had one of our local parks in our city. So we had a couple of our guys act like undercovers, or you can go into the bathroom stalls. And there's glory holes and everything in there. And that's how we knew the takedown, because they'd be sitting in there. I guess there was a certain foot tap that would happen. And if you tap back, then
the game was on.
something was coming your way, right? So that's how we got there. Like, go ahead. Sometimes we take a little longer to do the takedowns and make them squirm a little bit, But yeah, that was pretty. The bike unit, and then I did some undercover like vice unit stuff to take down with like prostitutes, and that was always cool to take. You arrest 30 guys in a night, 30, 40 guys, and each one of them has a story. Half of them got warrants, some got guns, and the whole reason they got stopped is because they offered one of our undercover cops, $20 for a blowjob or something, and now they're going
right
for all this other stuff, And sometimes there'd be some cars crashing. It would get exciting depending on what they're trying to get out of there. But
so on a night when you pick up 30 Johns, who does the paperwork?
Well, we have a generic PC.
Okay.
You just fill in their name. It's like a template. And then you have the officer blank, and you fill in her name, and then you have the charge. And that's where you got to get creative, because you didn't leave enough room in the PC. You got to cram them all in there, depending on how much activity this guy wanted,
Wow.
But yeah,
templates
that was cool.
Are great.
And
templates are great.
Anything really that was awesome, like 20. We got in some car chases, but they started shutting them down halfway through my career. If they're a property crime versus violent felony, and you start understanding it's you on the line, on half these chases, is it worth it? So then I started learning that game, seeing guys get jammed up, and I'm like, all right, don't do that. Don't do that.
Right?
Don't
Yes.
do that.
Mental note. Do not do
guy.
that. Yeah, because those agencies will tell you all day long, we're a family, we got your back. You do what's necessary, we'll take care of you. Yeah, they'll take care of you. All right, right out to the island all by yourself.
Hey, you mentioned Atlanta. I lived 2 years in Atlanta. I was in Gwinnett.
Oh, that's where I started my career.
I was a South Gwinnett Cowboy. That's where I played Little League football.
No kidding.
And I became a Brookwood Bronco years later.
Okay.
Or another year later. And then my dad, I started flunking out in school in like junior high. My mom pulled me back down to Miami and got my life straight. Private school. I was like, this sucks.
How funny is that you had to go to Miami to get your life straight?
It's because my mom was there as the cop. My dad was on, I can't remember how many wives he was at then. I think 3. He's at 5 total. So I think his wife number 3 he was seeing then. So
okay. Yeah, that was the Snellville area.
I got 8 marriages with my parents, man.
Wow.
Could be a sitcom.
Yes. Yeah, the 8 of us. Because obviously 8 may not be enough. So it's just the 8 of us.
I think I'm the only one that would suffer in that sitcom. I suffered enough. My dad would introduce
you
me
as I can see you playing a child version, an adult child version of Al Bundy in that sitcom.
My dad would say, "Hey, I divorced so and so." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "But I got so and so now." I'm like, "Wow, you got married again?" Like, "Wow, that was fast."
That was fast.
But typical. I'd see him in the summers, Christmas, so a long time would go by, at least in his world. But yeah, I mean, he was a retired military cop in the Air Force. So
okay.
He came from that background too. So I just couldn't escape it. I didn't want to be a cop. I thought it'd be NFL security after I left Florida State. And I realized you need to be like FBI agent or know somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. Not a loss prevention guy from Target.
I know. You ain't getting in, buddy.
No, sorry. All right. So
but I led the region in shoplifters. They're like,
hey, I mean, you got to hang your hat somewhere, right? You got to start,
right?
Yep, you got to start somewhere. So speaking of starting, at 20 something years, I know you've had to have a couple of rookies in your passenger seat.
Yeah.
You got anything to share for current FTOs or current rookies what not to do?
Well, one of the worst stories was my story being a rookie.
Oh.
When driving around with the FTO.
Oh, do tell.
And he did two things. He wasn't my usual FTO. He was my first phase where I'm riding along shotgun.
Okay.
And my regular trainee was gone or something, so he filled in. So he thought I was farther along in this process, and I wasn't. And he did the classic slam on the brakes. He slammed and hit himself in the chest, and goes, "I'm shot. Where are we?" And I'm sitting there like, well, I think we're on 3rd. I'm like, 3rd Street? He's like, 3rd Avenue. We're about freaking 18 block. Now I'm bleeding out. He made me feel like this big,
Yep.
And then the other one was the same, like the next day. He goes, "All right, we're going to pull up to this building. There's an armed suspect inside. I want you to grab the shotgun. I want to see how you handle it and get in position." I was like, "Oh, all right." So we pull up. I jump out, grab the shotgun, point it at the door. He's like, "All right, he's running out. He's shooting. What are you going to do?" I go, "I'm going to shoot his ass," and I'm all jacked up. And he's like, "How are you going to shoot him with an empty shotgun?" I'm like, "Why is it empty?" He's like, "You tell me." And I'm like, "Well, it's your car, your shotgun." He goes, "You're supposed to check it before we go on duty. You're supposed to do the whole inspection, check the back of the car, make sure no drugs tucked in, the whole thing.
Right.
Oil, tires, whatever they try. You're responsible for the car. I get it, right? Well, I'd never been taught to check the car, so he got all pissed that he used his good trick on the rookie that he wasted it because I didn't know. You wasted it, dude. And then guess what? I told all the other rookies. I'm like, "Hey, watch out.
Hey, he's gonna get you.
Grizz is gonna get you."
That's good. That's awesome.
But no, the rookies I usually had. I mean, in my shooting, I'm talking about a ride along. One of the 3rd cop on the scene that pulls up and the gun fires. He had a ride along right with him. She was some freshman, like from the university nearby, and she was like a criminal justice. I'm just gonna go do a ride along tonight. I don't think she ever came back. We never saw her again. She probably changed majors.
Yeah, she's a CPA now or something.
Yeah, she's actually probably I was gonna say working for like Twitter as a censoring our media and stuff like that.
Yes, a cancel culture expert.
So, yeah, Florida was awesome. It was. I think it's 30 years is too long. I think 20 was about right. Get out was, I retired at 50 on my 50th birthday. I walked out, and it was awesome. I'm like, man, I'm 50. I'm out of here. Later, Gators. I'm done.
Good for you.
And I'd already, from my shooting and some of the stuff I went through with workers' comp and my own journey, I knew I was going to be a cop again. I'm already a cop full time all the time with my kids, and when I'm out there in the world, and that's where I'm dedicated right now in my life, and maybe one day, small town, park ranger, maybe, in the Smokies or something. Maybe that's something I could handle, but I can't handle that day to day. One of the reasons I left because I knew I was going to shoot again. I wasn't going to wait. And then that would, you better be right.
Yeah.
It starts a whole nother process. So
yeah.
Glad I got out when I did.
Or in the news that night, it said the caption reads, "Former officer Eric Reynolds indicted on 3 counts of blah, 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 blah."
Shit, now they arrest you. You know, I know we're not talking politics. They arrest you and you haven't even been convicted or anything.
Right.
You know,
Right. Yep.
Where's the
living
peace?
in Atlanta, brother, I know. I feel so bad for the APD guys, and gals, guys in general.
Yeah, collectively, I know.
Collectively, yeah. So, in your journeys, you've already mentioned making a citizen's, not technically a citizen's arrest, but being Mr. Concerned or Mr. Anonymous with the phone call. Have you encountered anything else similarly? Perhaps even with some of the other camping coppers as you're touring around the world or around the nation?
You know, I haven't had any incidents with anybody. I haven't, you know, obviously sometimes maybe a little bit too much alcohol, depending on where we're at, because everyone loves camping, right? And
Yeah.
a lot of weekend warriors come out, and they, you know, that you see them come out. They come there Friday, they whip out all their stuff, everything. They got their fire pits, their chairs, they got all the little trinkets, you know, they set it up. And then they're exhausted, they fall back in their chair, and now they start drinking. You're like, all right, here we go. And by Sunday, they got to load up and leave again. But Friday, Saturday, they party hard.
Right.
You know, but, you know, you get, unfortunately, these guys have a lot of stuff on their minds, you know, and they're trying to just get a release.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so for the most part, I just see guys that are suffering with some PTSD on some level. We've all had something in our lives. Regular people have had trauma in their lives. It could be a car accident. It could be a death of a family member. So you always see that, and you can see, I can see it in people now. You can almost tell they got a sad story to tell. They almost want to get off their chest. So that's been one of the things that's brought out in my world. And it's, you know, you're like, man, this guy could just change his diet a little bit, exercise, get around more people, and be a little bit more talkative and get that stuff out of you. You know, I think they'd be better off. But the only thing, car accidents, we've been lucky. I mean, one of the biggest things I've had to do, I was never a guy that towed trailers. I never did that, never towed a boat, you know. And all of a sudden I'm driving this, you know, 22-foot, you know, F-350 with this 28-foot toy hauler. And I'm flying down the road. I'm trying to merge in with trucks and use my blinker. It's a whole nother way of driving, you know. And I learned, you know, and it's a lot on the line. You know, you got your family and you got your house behind you. And you're just paying attention, man. Driving's stressful.
It is
3-4 hours, and you're just holding on. You're just making sure you're always scanning, almost like road patrol when you're always looking, you know. And then, you know, I'm just glad I'm not doing lights and sirens at freaking 100 plus like I used to. I don't know what I was thinking back then.
Well, yeah, I know what you were thinking. This is awesome. This is awesome. I know exactly what you were thinking because we all thought it. We all were like, why can't we run code? Why can't we run code?
Yeah. I one time went down the wrong way off an off-ramp because the bad guy ditched us. And another guy went with me. And then all of a sudden we're back in roll call and there was a debriefing. And I came in late because I had to turn around somewhere else or whatever. And they go, all right, we got to call 2 officers. We're going down the wrong way off the off-ramp at 95. And they're like, they looked at me. I go, well, yeah, it was me. I had to catch up to the bad guy. They're like, who else was with you? And I was like, I don't know. I know exactly who was with me, but I didn't say shit, right? And all of a sudden they turned to that guy. They're like, you snitch, you sold Reynolds out. Because I guess before I got there, he had said it was me and Reynolds that went the wrong way. And that dude never lived it down. You know, you can't go rat me out and debriefing.
Yeah. Did he earn the nickname Serpico?
It wasn't that bad. He just slipped. He had to get checked. I mean, I was going to admit to it anyways. I knew if they're asking me, they already know.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, certain things, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
You're frozen on me.
Am I? Or is that just me deep thinking?
Oh, you got a great deep thinking pause.
I do.
Should be a meme.
It might end up being one.
Knock&Talk. You're going to see you there.
Anyway, so I'm really interested, and I know the basis of the show is about the funny stories and such, but and we've covered some great ones, and I'm sure if we pull back the layers of the onion, and I'm sure there's some more funny stories in there, but I really would like to, if you're up to this, get you to talk more about your Keto 5.0 and how that has changed your life. Because I was a smaller guy until I wasn't. And that weight, like you, didn't take my shirt off. I was not feeling 100% about myself. And that led to some, relationship issues in the marriage. And so if collectively you and I can help Officer Joe Schmo turn his life around, or Officer Jane Schmo turn her life around, I think it's worth diving in for a couple minutes. So how did you come about with Keto 5.0, and what's the mission behind that?
Well, it's Keto 5.0, like Hawaii 5.0, right?
Okay.
Hawaii
All right.
5.0 being the 50th state. But when I was a kid, it was a TV show to me. And plus, in the hood, they always had 5.0 coming, especially
Right.
doing undercover. You hear them like ratting us out. So when I started helping guys, after I lost 50 pounds, people tend to notice in your department, like, man, how'd you go down 4 pant sizes?
Mm-hmm.
And I just started telling them, I go, dude, you got to lay off the carbohydrates, and there's certain processed foods, there's certain things you could do, like you can mimic pizza, you can mimic, if you have a habit of M&Ms or some, or energy drinks, there's stuff you can do to kind of keep the sugar and the carbs down, and watch what happens. So, helped a couple guys lose 50 pounds, and they started calling me Keto 5.0, and I had a little group chat, and then it turned into Facebook. And then it turned into, I ended up opening a business after I got my license in sports nutrition, and it's Keto 5.0, and I help first responders. I help anybody who really wants help. And I dive into their nutrition. I want to raid your cabinets. I want to show you what you should be buying. I got a network of doctors that are real doctors that can help people with their diet, and to get away from kind of the modern theme that they've been teaching us that, well, by the time you're 50, you're going to have to get a prescription. It's just the way it is. It's genetics. No, you know what? Bad eating habits are genetic, and that's what's happened. All this sickness we've seen in the last 70 years is because they started messing with our diet, and we don't farm like we used to. And unfortunately, big business jumped on it. When you have the big tobacco companies take over all the big food, what do you think is going to happen? And we never look at our nutrition as cops for the most part, right? We're always looking at state law or the game this weekend, or I want to know what, like if you're going to arrest somebody, the statutes, right?
Right.
Most guys don't know anything about what they're eating. You can eat fast food. You just got to lay off the buns and fries. Get 7 patties, $13 at McDonald's. You'll be full. You won't eat the rest of the night.
Right.
Fast during your shift. I do bone broth and heavy cream in my coffee, and I do a little shot of stevia because 20 years of Dunkin' Donuts and extra sugar and extra cream. You still got it. I still got it, right? It's in my veins, but at least I can calm it down, and it's really something, man. When I started seeing cops die so soon, cops I knew that had multiple pensions from the service and school board and the, city pension or county pension. I'm like, man, he got like 8 years in his pension. The last 3 sucked, right? He got diabetes, or he got, divorced, and his wife took everything or half of it. So it's just, I hate to say it, but most of us, when we retire metabolically sick. And that's a shame. The cities don't care. Your departments don't care. I know there's a couple of departments, one in Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma City is starting a wellness program where they will do your blood work, and they will help you get to a low-carb diet to help yourself get metabolically healthy again. And that's the kind of thing that's going to have to start spreading. Each training department is going to have to understand metabolic disease, because heart disease, heart attacks, that's what kills us, and I don't think people think about it, especially in your 40s. You got a belly, you're a little bit, I was 200 at the academy, and now I'm 235, 245, 250. It's not healthy, man. And it's going to get you, and you're going to become a patient for life with these doctors in these hospitals if you don't get your weight under control, and it's a shame, but it can be done, man. I did it. I tried every other diet in the world back before, I was still gaining weight until I eliminated toxic food and went real, it could be real vegetables, real fruits, and real like meats, that's all I ate, and bam, I got a new life out of it. My wife's got a new husband now, because now I'm freaking 75 pounds lighter. I'm always, I'm like, this isn't fair. I still got the same wife, which is a good thing. I'm just joking.
I'm just kidding, honey. I'm just
I
kidding.
just put a wig on her. That's fun, Some pink furry handcuffs.
Oh wow! I mean, we could take that left turn in Albuquerque if you want to.
Man, you know what I'm wondering? I know there's a scene in this whole trailer park life. I know there's some weird scene. I haven't found it yet. Not that I'm looking for it, but
Just stay away from the pineapples. Just stay away from the
I know all
pineapples.
about the pineapples. I wanted to put one on my trailer upside down just to see if we get any people knocking on the door, but that might be too much attention.
It might be.
My
It
wife
might be.
Get home alone, whole stack of guys knocking on the door. Retired cops. Hey.
How you doing?
Retired sex crimes detectives. That's what.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah.
I know what that means.
Yeah. I did a year and a half in Special Victims Unit, and there's some crazy, sick people.
Yeah, stuff don't even make sense.
I wouldn't want them anywhere near a pineapple, much less a pineapple on my trailer.
I know, right?
Attention small business owners, Facebook group owners, or anyone looking for customized social media graphics or short branded videos. Check out the Faulkner Endeavor Group, our parent company, and the sponsor of this episode of Knock and Talk Show. You can find us here at fegroup.io, and we do branded videos for product release, for anything, as well as social media graphics. We also do presentations and promotional ads and really anything in the digital graphics space. And if you mention this video and this episode of the Knock and Talk Show, you'll get 20% off your very first order. That's right, 20%. That's a lot of cheddar. Again, check out the Faulkner Endeavor Group, find us here, and let us know what you think of this episode. Thanks, folks. Stay safe, and we'll catch you next time.
That's why Oh, you know what? We caught some bike thieves at one trailer stealing my son's bike. It was like a whole big campground thing, and I didn't tighten my son's bike chain like he kept asking me, and the chain fell off. So the bad guy crashed and dropped his phone and took off from the scene. And I showed up, did my investigation, and 11-year-old kid dropped his phone. We called his mom, told on him. But we made a big deal about it. Like, deputies came out, and he had just been bullied a little bit by some other kids. I think they said, "Hey, you got to get us a bike," or some crap. But
a little initiation.
Yeah, it was pretty fun though. I was like,
I bet.
Man, I was on my bike unit again, bunny hopping over curbs. Get this kid. I just refurbished my kid's bike though, man. I put pegs on it and new handlebars.
Wow.
I was like, this little son of a beast. If we can take my kid's bike. But
I had
usually the campgrounds are good though. That was just one incident.
Okay. Well, having all the blue line flags flying around, I would think that any would-be thief or anyone with any nefarious intent would go to a different place.
Yeah, it was at the playground, so I don't think they knew. But maybe I need to put a thin blue line flag on one of those flags on his bicycle. He'll hate it. A BMX bike with a big flag on it.
It's for your own good, kid. It's for your own good.
You'll understand. You'll see.
I had a friend that went through the bike patrol class, and he said it was probably the most difficult, physically strenuous, mentally exhausting class that he took in his police career. Wow. And half the people failed out from injury. Like they couldn't complete the class.
I wonder, because we did it. I don't really, trust me, I wasn't an experienced mountain biker, but I had mountain bike and, had a bike and rode around. So I was a little ahead of a lot of people. Hadn't been on a bike since I think they were kids. And these are cops. You're like, and yeah, a lot of them fell, landing on their face and stuff. Like, when's the last time you did a push-up? You don't even have to break your fall, But yeah, it was pretty challenging, but it wasn't that. I loved it. I got paid for that week. It was my short week, so I had 3 days of overtime. I was like, man, nice. I ride a bike all day, and I knew where I was headed. I was heading to a bike unit, so I was already like excited about it. So, but yeah, you're not used to biking, your butt's gonna get worn out riding on that seat, you know. So I would suggest start a couple months before you go to that school.
I think that's wise words. Wise words. Well, tell us more about Cops and Campers.
So 2021, I was at a campsite up in upstate New York, and they asked me to take my flag down. I thought they were joking, so I filmed my interaction with the guy, and I kind of gave him a piece of my mind, and it went viral a little bit. They threatened to kick me out of the campground, and blah blah blah, and I stayed, like an extra week just to be an irritant, and I was. And put on social media, and the news came out, interviewed me, like a big radio station interviewed me, and then I got suspended from our camping group. It's called Thousand Trails, and they're like, "Yeah, you're suspended because we're having all these people cancel our membership because I guess a bunch of cops are canceling their membership." So they didn't like that. They didn't tell me that, but that's seemed what happened.
Okay.
And so I had 2 months. I didn't have anywhere to go, and these different campsites, all in upstate New York, reached out, and they're like, "Hey, man, bring your flag, bring your family, bring your rig. You're staying here with us for a week or two, or however long as you need."
Wow.
So we've got to stay at all these different places, that we would have never gone to, all because these campground owners were like, "Hey, man, we love first responders. Come on out." So I got with the first campground owner named Scott, and the weekend I was there in 2021, he had a police event for a charity. I was meeting all these cops from Ithaca, New York, and they were struggling, like, "Man, New York sucks, blah blah blah," especially supporting cops. So I said, let's do a cops and campers event here next year, and Scott was on board. So last year in 2022, we had our first event. It was like Thursday through Sunday. Sunday's like everyone's leaving, just hang out, breakfast, something like that. But Friday night was a bonfire. We're drinking, getting to know each other. Kids have a movie for all the kids to watch. And the next morning there was a chicken barbecue. We had National Guard out there with bounce houses for the kids. We had cornhole tournament, and then we had a live band that night that played, and there were a bunch of retired cops. And it was just, man, it was just an awesome weekend. And a bunch of cops were coming up to me, especially the wives, were like, "Man, my husband really needed this. It was just so therapeutic to get away and meet other people." And they made some friends that they were never made without this event. And we filmed a documentary. It's a 32-minute documentary that's coming out probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks. It'll be on YouTube. I'll release it through all the social media platforms I have. It's for free. It's just we want eyes on it, and I want to spread this to different regions across the United States. Put one in Texas, do one in the Midwest, do one out west, and kind of get us together and get people to help us out, whether it's bands that want to play or sponsors that want to come out or podcasts that want to come out and interview different cops that have interesting stories. Make it a family thing. And, I sent you the trailer. We just released it this week, and it's, it's got me in
right
it. And I talk about the whole thing that went down, and I think it's going to be hopefully something big. I just want guys that go out there and women, of course. I'm just saying, to have a safe zone to get to, because we know what happens with us when we leave. If it's not heart attacks, a lot of us take our own lives. We have a lot of depression. There's a lot of things that go on. But at this resort, it's not a resort yet. Maybe one day. Right now, it's just a retreat. So you're bringing your own beer, bringing your own rig, or, you can rent one. You can have one of the cabins. You can stay, an Airbnb nearby and just come out for the events. And eventually I want therapists out there. I want people to, doctors to help them with their nutrition. And I can help. I want therapists. I want yoga. I want meditation. I want guys that really understand when PTSD strikes, it hits your central nervous system. And a lot of times you need help in the dealing with it. So that's the overall goal of it,
That is definitely a cause that I can get behind for a lot of different reasons. I've always wanted to me and my wife to get into camping. As a kid, I grew up once a month. My parents were in a camping group, and we would go to all over Gulf Shores and Pensacola and into Mississippi, and Styx River Water World was my favorite as a kid. There outside of Gulf Shores. I don't know if it's still. I don't know if that's still a place. If it's closed down anyway, it was a water park. It was awesome. I had so many great memories as a kid doing that. But also being recently diagnosed with some PTSD of my own, and going through a health challenge on my own, having a dear friend of mine that was killed on duty last year. This is having this kind of fellowship is something that our brotherhood and sisterhood desperately needs, which is why I went ahead and made this QR code. So for those that are watching this online and not on your phone, use your phone, scan the QR. It'll send you straight to the documentary trailer for Cops and Campers. And yeah, look at that. Is it working? I hope it's working.
Yeah, you said listen. I was like, I felt like I had to do it. Like, all right.
Yes,
Yeah,
it worked. Success.
I found that being in nature, I know everyone's like, oh, you drag your house around, but I sleep in my same bed, the same bathroom. Everything's the same. It's just we open our front door, and sometimes it's the woods. Sometimes it might be the beach. It might be a campground that's crowded. But the point is, it's always something different, and we can always get to nature. And it's really big. You need to get out there in the sunshine, the vitamin D. You need to breathe fresh air. Get out of being inside these cubicles, inside all the time, and you'll see it once you get out there. You hear the birds chirping. Man, it's just a different sound. And
Yeah.
it's a different peacefulness. I think a lot. That's why camping's so fun. You get the fire crackling, and you get beer cans and a barbecue going, and it's just chill, and I think a lot of us really need that type of like chill period, to help us.
Absolutely. Have you heard of Harvest Hosts?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I came across one of their Facebook paid ads a couple of years ago, and I was like, that's what my wife and I. My wife loves wine. I love bourbon. We're foodies, but we're also a little reclusive. We don't like big crowds, and that's part of me being a cop for 15 years, not liking big crowds and situational awareness and all that. So something like that would be awesome. Going to some kind of farm, and
There's something called Wolford too that we did. We worked on a farm for 3 months last summer in Pennsylvania, and it's called a worldwide organization, organic farming or something. And you can log in and create, like, I want to go to a beef farm. I want to go to a winery. I want to go to a whatever vegetable or vegan, whatever you want. They have a category for you. And you reach out to that farmer and say, hey man, we're driving through. We noticed you take reservations for a week up to 6 months. Can we come by for a week? And you can park on their property if you got a rig, or you can stay in what they have, whatever's available, a house or something. And you live with them and work for them for like a week, and you eat supper with them sometimes, or sometimes they just give you food. And it was awesome. And we learned how to slaughter like all kinds of farm animals. I don't want to get into it. Everyone gets sad. But my kids learned so much being on a farm for 3 months. I learned how to drive a tractor, a Bobcat. Now I'm Bobcat master now. I'm like, woo-hoo.
Bobcat master.
Trust me, I'm not. But, I know a lot more than I did a year ago. But that's what it was about, real like regenerative farming, understanding why you move, the livestock around, because you want the earth to heal itself for the next round of whatever you're going to be doing. It's very interesting, and we want to do that. We want to settle in our own chickens and goats eventually. So we're kind of doing our own internships at different farms. But that's a great path. Like you said, Harvest Hosts, all they want you to do is maybe buy a couple bottles of wine and some cheese, and you stay the night. So that's a good gig.
Yeah, it is. And I saw a couple of them allow you to like smush the grapes or pick the grapes. I feel like I Love Lucy and the big grape smushing vat, and then I think about all those barefoot. I don't know if I can drink wine anymore.
I know, right? Maybe you can. I
don't know. Another real quick story that I think is really cool from your life. You found a brother that you didn't know you had. How did that happen?
That is crazy. So I did the 23andMe, figuring, Big Brother already has my DNA from my whole years as a cop anyways, right? Mm-hmm. So I didn't care. So I sent it out there with my mom being Cuban and my dad, and I guess my mom's English side of things. Heavy Irish, English, and like the Nordic period, Viking country. So I was just interested, got the feedback. I was looking at the different things on the map and towns. I was like, that's pretty interesting. So 2019, I've already decided to retire. I'm retiring like in 3 months. And I get an email and it says 23andMe wants to get in touch with you, or a relative wants to get in touch with you. I didn't think much of it because sometimes we have cousins or somebody, third cousin wants to get in touch, say hi, And first thing it said was, hi, my name is Dave Stahl. I know very little about my birth parents because I was adopted at birth. And it says, according to 23andMe, we're half brothers. Not only that, we're both cops and we both live in Florida.
Wow.
And it was like, I remember I was at 2J's having an omelet and bacon and avocado, and which is a go-to breakfast. And
Okay.
and I couldn't believe it. So we ended up, exchanging numbers. I talked to his department real fast and he talked to mine, but we ended up just FaceTime. And dude, he turns out he's my older brother by like a year and a half. My parents had me when they were 19. So I'm like, damn, how early were my parents going at it? Or, I knew it was one of them. Trying to be my pops, of course. So it was just crazy to look at another guy that's your older brother that you didn't know for 50 years. And I'm staring at his hands and his ears. Just weird. His name was Dave. So I'm like, holy cow, Dave, where you been? So he's like, oh, I grew up in San Diego. My dad, his adopted dad was a Navy helicopter pilot. And I guess it was stationed out there in San Diego for a long time. So that's where he grew up. And his senior year, he ended up in West Virginia when his dad retired and went back. I guess his dad grew up in West Virginia. So they ended up back there. So here's a San Diego kid in West Virginia hating it, right? He wants to surf. Where's the beaches at? Where's the women? So somehow he ended up going down to Orlando. He's like, there's beaches in Florida. I'll go down there. And he applied as a cop when he was like 21, got hired. So he's got 10 more years on the job than I have. He retired as a sergeant 2 years ago. So we find each other and we finally meet, bring the family, and it's this whole thing like, holy cow, Dave. And I got to call my dad. Dad, do you know there's you have another son? Remember I told you the 5 marriages? Well, this is part of the stuff that was happening. And I go, Dad, where were you in the fall of 1967, right? And he goes, fall of 1967. He's 72, right? So he's going back to that 6 months when he left high school and he hadn't signed up with the Air Force yet. Well, I already knew that because I did my background investigation. I was like,
sure,
all right.
Of course you did. Any good cop would.
Dave was born in July. I did the backtrack. All right, October. Somehow my dad was kicking October, November, September, those months. So my dad's like, yeah, I did kick it with this girl back at Woolworths or something. And she was in the lingerie department. I was in the paint department. Typical male, female roles back then in the 60s, right? And I guess they were kicking it. And she had said she thought she was pregnant and then came back, said she wasn't. And he never thought much of it, left town. He was 18, getting ready to sign up for the Air Force and stuff. And here we are, nowadays 54.
Wow.
And they finally met. It was crazy. I walked to my public information officer, who she's actually she was good with us. We didn't hate her like some departments hate theirs. And I go, hey, you want to hear a cool story? I go, I found a brother through 23andMe. And I go, he's a cop, freaking, Orange County Sheriff's Office right there 2 hours away in Orlando. And she dropped her pen or whatever. She was like, oh my God, you got to let us go to the news with this. And I was like, the news? And this is 2019. They liked us then. It wasn't 2020 when they rioted and stuff. So
yeah,
I go, all right. And Dave's like, okay, we could tell the press. He's a lot more stoic. I'm more verbal and out there. And all of a sudden it took fire, dude. It went all over the place. And we started getting calls from different news stations. We ended up doing Fox and Friends in the morning. So here's Dave and I in our Class A's. They got Dave in Orlando. I'm in Miami, or no, some local affiliate here in Palm Beach. And we're talking about finding each other. And then we were on Lester Holt on NBC Nightly News. We're the very last 5 minutes of the show. We went all the way down to Sweden and Switzerland and articles, all in foreign language. I'm like, hey, that's us. I don't know what the hell it says, but that's us. Right? And it was
that's
cool.
Crazy.
And he'd been camping 10 years. He had an RV. I never camped. So he got me in the camp. He helped my wife get me there. We started camping together. And he's like, dude, it's not that hard. This is what you do. He got, he kind of had a big brother to help me out. Right. It was nice. I never had a big brother before. So it was pretty cool. And then, we had some good opportunities pop up. We auditioned for The Amazing Race. They reached out to us. And they said, we love the idea of two cops competing in this game. I never heard of The Amazing Race at that point. Well, I heard of it. I never knew what it was really about. And we auditioned for the show, and we got selected to be on like season 32, right? So December 12th, I retired 2019. They're flying us out to LA to be a TV show, guys, right? Which is, my mind's blown that we're even going to have this opportunity. And all of a sudden, we get a call from the booking guy. He's like, hey, we're going to push you back to February. They decided to go with the 10 cast members they have, and we're going to have you start season 33. It's like, okay. And meanwhile, we're binge watching everything. I'm like, I'm not sure, jumping out of a plane. And he's like, well, I'm not singing. And I go, well, I'll sing, you know? So it's just stupid banter. And plus, I'm learning everything about Dave because 50 years to make up, right? There's a lot of stuff there. Deep stuff, too, if you want to peel the layers back. Like, man, you never knew your birth parents. That's crazy. So turns out, man, COVID hit. They postponed the show. Summer of riots. They hate cops, man. They never even called us back again. I guess we got dropped like a hot potato. So,
like a hot potato. Drop it like it's hot.
But it was all right. I mean, we had fun thinking about it. I'm glad we didn't go anywhere because, you know, you're supposed to be off the grid for a month.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty tight with my family. And you mentioned the PTSD stuff, the control. I don't know if I could have handled being in Bangladesh for a week. Not talking to my family, you know, because they move you around on that show. You know, and it would have been probably too much. It was a blessing we didn't go. We kind of got teased with it and started thinking, man, $1 million if we win. You see me and Dave fighting. Oh, no, you screwed up the basket we're supposed to make, you know, or some stupid thing like that. You know? But it was a trip, and, you know, we're still getting to know each other. We, you know, and it's, you know, he's since met his real mom and his dad. His birth mom passed away. It was crazy. Like a year after she met him, you know, it was almost like she hung around her whole life waiting for this guy. It's like a Lifetime movie. And he had 2 sisters on that side. My dad's got, you know, 4 kids. So it was just, all of a sudden he went from being an only kid with nobody because his birth parents had passed. His adopted parents had passed. And he has this whole family and never knew about, offering a little blood work. That's, you know, crazy. And he looks more like my dad than anybody. It's like, no doubt, you know, you're like, that's man, crazy. You got the good genes at 18. I got those 19-year-old genes.
I got the leftovers.
The leftovers. But it was funny when we were talking, I was like, man, I go, had to make me a drink. He goes, what are you drinking? I go, this is the first night we talked. I go, Tito's. He's like, I'm drinking Tito's. We are brothers, you know.
We are brothers.
But Tito's like the most popular brand out there, but it was just funny. And then, you know, we're just like, I go, how tall are you? He's like, 5'10". I go, I'm 6 foot. I got you. He's like, damn it. You know, just being competitive already, right off the bat.
Just brothers being brothers.
And we're cops. Wow. We're already busting each other's chops. So, you know.
Yeah, that's great, dude. That's an amazing story.
Yeah, it's fantastic to find him. And, you know, we don't talk as much. Like, we used to talk every minute of the day. Like, who's your first girlfriend? You know, stuff like that, you know. And now it's like, all right, I know most of your stories. Where are you going this summer? You know, we're both retired cops now, you know. And he retired as a boss. He's got a lot more coin than I got. So I'm still hustling.
Oh. Well, any last comments and anything you want to cover we haven't talked about? You want to spend any more time plugging Keto 5.0 or Cops and Campers or anything else? So I want to give this part of the show to you. Talk about whatever you want.
Well, I'm serious about your nutrition, everybody. Seriously, reach out to me. I know on my website I have prices, but for first responders, I'm not going to lie, I end up giving it away, man, because I want you to get the gift that I was given. And that's, you know, being healthy and being able to run around with your kids and being able to live your, like I say, spend your pension and travel and be able to walk, you know, not have a cane and not be diabetic or pre-diabetic. There is a way we can beat this. And I'm telling you, I'm hooked up to a huge organization. It's just not me. It's a huge organization of society and metabolic health practitioners. You can find a doctor in your area that's like-minded and it'll help you out, man. I'm telling you, it's big stuff that's coming our way, and we got to get our cops healthy, man. I mean, look at us. It's embarrassing by the time we're retired, man. You know, but that's my spiel. You know, it's Cops and Camper. Come camp with us, man. If you know a campground that wants to host an event, let us know, man. We're up for it. We'll bring the numbers.
You bring the numbers. Well, Eric, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your evening to come on the show, talk about your stories, some freaking amazing stories, and an amazing career. And guys, seriously, if you are like me and like Eric, heavy, done lapped over your belt, is a term we used all the time. But if you can't tie your shoes or your boots without sticking your foot out to the side, seriously, reach out to Eric. Let him help you. My life is better because of the mind shift that I took and the health shift that I took. And it's, it is definitely important. The bad guys, they work out while they're in the county or in the state pen. We need to do the same. So anyway, look out. Once again, I'm gonna put this back up. Cops and Campers, scan that code, watch the documentary when it comes out. And if you're going to be in the area of or know a place that would like to host, reach out to Eric as well. And again, folks, thank you so much for joining in, watching this. Stay safe, keep your head on a swivel, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you, Patrick.
The Knock&Talk Show is a certified veteran-hosted podcast. Show your support, tune in, share, and subscribe.